Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you are returning, thank you as always for being here. Oh, we are on the road, clearly, but we're doing this. It's all good. I've got a lot of Christmas decor for you, Christmas tree theme. Let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. I have one of these styrofoam cones from the Dollar Tree and a whole bunch of garland also from the Dollar Tree. And this is a wired garland, and I am just going to be using a little bit of hot glue at the top. And once that is cool enough for me to manipulate it, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping the garland around. So using a little bit of hot glue here and there where needed, just to make sure that it's secure. I was blowing on it, trying to get it to cool, but we're just going to wrap this all the way down the whole length of the cone. And this was, I had started out with a piece that had already been partially used, and so I ended up using about 1.5 of these garlands, and they were 9 feet long, so I'm guessing somewhere between 13 14 feet of garland. Now I probably could have used less. I was really tucking it up underneath each row to just make sure that it was nice and full and that I wasn't going to have any gaps, nothing showing with the foam that was underneath. But you could probably get away with just a single strand if that's all you have in your stash or all that you would like to use. So now as I get to the base here, I'm going to be using a little bit more hot glue just so that I make sure that it all stays put. So not just at the end there, but then also in a couple of places around the base, just so that it doesn't slip off and everything is nice and secure. And so once I have that all set, I've got my little tree. I am going to just make sure everything is, kind of evenly distributed. I'm going to floof it up a little bit. Now I'm grabbing out of my stash one of these these are ornaments, right? I just took the little top off of it. It's a little red star. And then this is a piece of birch wood, also from the Dollar Tree, from a pack that I've had in my stash for some time. Just going to glue that to the bottom. And we have our little Christmas tree. And now I am taking it from my stash. This is a skewer that I've been using for other things, usually to just let paint dry on like beads and things, so it's not real pretty, but it's still functioning. So I just cut off a little piece at an angle and inserted that into my star and then down into my tree so that we had it all set. So now if you don't have a foam or a styrofoam cone, or if you can't find one at your Dollar Tree, you can certainly make your own cone with cardstock. So I'm going to show you, we're going to make exactly the same tree, but using cardstock instead of the styrofoam cone. So you're just going to take that cardstock, and as I showed you here, make a cone shape. I'm going to trim off the bottom of it and just start trying to get it so it's even. I ultimately did bring out my little ruler and I measured off, I think like 7.5 inches. It doesn't matter whatever length you want to measure it down to, but I just, or maybe it was 7 even, but I just measured a little bit of a notch all the way around my cone so that I would have, an even bottom, an even base. So once I had that done, I grabbed this is just a scrap piece of foam core board. You could use another piece of cardstock. I just wanted it to be a little bit sturdier. So I cut it out with my X-Acto knife, and now I'm going to glue my little cone onto the base that I've created here. Just putting a little bit of hot glue all the way around the edge, and I'll set that down. Once I have that secured, I'm just using one of my finger protectors to make sure that it's getting where I want it. But once I have that secured, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to trim off some of the extra cardstock with my shears, and then I'm just going to seal it up with some extra hot glue just to make sure that it's not going to fall apart on me. And I did that all the way around that edge. And now, same process. I've stuck a little bit of glue inside that little hole at the top, and I tucked my garland in there, and now I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it all the way around. And I have to say, I think I actually liked the shape of this tree better than the one where I used the styrofoam cone. So for what it's worth, you know, this is not a bad method. It actually might be a better method for this particular project. And then, so if I have to use another one, which I did for this, because this is a little bit wider than the styrofoam cone was, and you know what? I thought it was going to be shorter. It ended up being exactly the same height. So kind of funny. I was actually looking forward to having them at a couple of different heights, like a shorter tree and a taller tree, but that's all right. I just propped it up on something else. So same exact process. I put a little piece of birch wood on the base to use for the trunk, and I'm applying another little star to the top. And here you have it, our two little Christmas trees. Let me know what you think. DIY number 2. All right, I have this bulb. This is a plastic bulb, and that's going to be key with this project and what ends up happening. But I've also got my alcohol inks, and I've only ever used them with glass in the past. So I thought, well, you know what? Maybe it'll work with the plastic too. Not so much. At first, it all started out great. I've got my red and my green, and I was, you know, coloring the ball. It looked really cool. I set it aside to dry there on the right, and then I grabbed this piece that I'd gotten in a Michael's Grab box. It was damaged, so I was going to pull it apart and see what pieces I might be able to use for the top to decorate my little ornament here. So I'm pulling apart different pieces. I finally settled on some greenery, but as I'm doing this, I'm noticing that all of my ink is starting to kind of just drop down into the base of the bulb. So I'm thinking about it, but while I think about it, I grabbed out some of my Kirkland ribbon, and I am going to make some loop bows, and I'm going to want 2 bows because I'm going to put these both at the top of my ornament. So I just cut out the different pieces that I needed, the 2 loops, and then I'm going to cut out 2 other pieces to create the tie around the center, which is also going to be the tails. And then I will cut out 1 other piece in a little bit to make the hanger for the ornament. So I did create a loop. I used a little bit of hot glue because it's easier to do it that way. I was trying to tie it without having secured it, and it's just easier to manipulate. So tied the extra piece around into a knot. My bows always go a little wonky when I first do that, but just remember you can always fluff up those loops and you're good to go. And then I did the second one exactly the same way. So now I've got 2 of these, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut off a length for the loop for the holder. Now you can start to really see, well, maybe, I don't know, it's hard to see on camera, but all of that ink is just, yeah, it's not sticking to the plastic at all. But anyway, I tied this in a knot at the top, and then I'm going to pull it as tight as I can, and I'll flip that down after I cut off the ends there. I'm going to flip it around to the bottom, and then I'm going to be hiding that knot so no one will be able to see the knot, because we're going to hide it with our bows here. So I'm just going to be getting a little bit of hot glue on the back of the bow there, just trying to find some place to stick it upright. I was trying to get that ink not to go everywhere, but so anyway, a little bit of hot glue, holding that up until it's cool enough to manipulate, and then I'm going to be attaching the other bow to the opposite side. So whichever way you look at this, you'll be able to see a bow. So there's not really a front and a back to it. So once I had all of that secured, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this. I did go ahead, actually I went ahead and trimmed off my tails first. I was just cutting them at an angle. You could certainly dovetail them if you want, but I just cut these at an angle for this particular project. So that part is all done, fluffing up my little bows, but I'm going to go ahead and pop this off in a second. And yeah, you can see now that the ink is just, it was a hot mess. It was just all sliding down into the bottom. So I just poured in some rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to get this all cleaned up. and we're going to do something else. I'm gonna completely change direction. So I've got some white sand that I had in my stash, and I'm gonna grab a piece of parchment paper and just make a little bit of a funnel with it, kind of like making a cone shape, right? So I'm just gonna make that cone shape, stick it in there so that I don't get sand all over everything, because I definitely would if I didn't do this. And once I had, maybe I don't know, just not too much sand at the bottom, but enough so that it's visible and so it looks like snow, right? Now this is some vase filler that I had found at the Dollar Tree a while back. It's been in my stash, but I thought it was super pretty, and it's got a little bit of greenery, but most of it is little mini pine cones and seed pods that have opened up. And some of the seed pods are red, some of them are gold. A lot of the little pine cones have either been treated with gold glitter, or they're painted gold, and they're just really pretty. Then I'm popping off some of these little red berries from a garland that was also in a Michael's grab box to just add a little bit more color. And that's it. Pop my top back on and let me know what you think of this one. DIY number 3. I have a little styrofoam ball this time. We're going to make another ornament, and I was trying to decide how I wanted to do it, or what I wanted to use. I knew what I wanted conceptually to do. I'm going to be applying these to the whole outside. I was just trying to figure out what pieces I wanted to use. I did settle on using just the same vase filler that we were using before, but I determined I really needed to be using hot glue, and I didn't want there to be the white ball visible in any gaps. So I grabbed my Jew cord, as you can see, and I'm going to apply that. I'm not sure why I left that one little piece of the it's like a seed pod. I don't know why I left it in there. I don't know, but it's my anchor piece. We'll call it that. Excuse me, and that served as the bottom of my piece. So I am just going to wrap this around and around using hot glue to secure it. I don't know if you saw, but I had put like a little band of hot glue down a couple of the sides so that it would have something to grab onto, and I wouldn't have to just keep grabbing my glue gun. Here I go again. I did a little band down the side. I'll do a band down this side as well. And that's just going to allow me to keep going and working with it as long as I work quickly, right, before that hot glue dries. So I worked my way all the way down and then left a tail, which I'm going to tuck back into the center of where we ended, right, with all of our wrapping. The hot glue was still hot there, so I was able to tuck it down in, and that's going to serve as my hook, right? It's not really a hook, but you know what I mean. So now I am just going to work my way around with hot glue and applying these little mini pine cones and the seed pods all over the ornament. And I just thought that this was so sweet. It's got so much texture and interest, and I've got some of the red pods in there for color. I don't know, I just thought that this was really, really sweet, and it's such an easy craft to make. It does take a little bit of time, I'm not gonna lie, so you'd want to make sure you have a little bit of time to work on this, because it's placing these individually all over the little ball. And while it's not a huge ball, it still did take me a little bit of time to get it done. But I thought that this turned out so super cute, and I hope that you're enjoying it as well. I'd love for you to leave me a comment. Let me know which project is your favorite as we work through the video. All right, and there she is. Love this one, but let me know what you think. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Nice, Valerie. These are beautiful, and I love those ornaments. Everything's great. And cool, Cheryl. Look at these minis in her haunted house. Just wonderful. And wow, Brenda, these are the alcohol ink. I love them. Cute Kathy, little snowman, and the joy. I just love all these projects. So if you are interested in having a shout out, I would love to give you one. Just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, so I have a placemat here. I had it visible in one of my earlier projects, and I decided that I did want to go ahead and make an additional tree with this one. I've been seeing online a bunch of, and like in catalogs, a bunch of Christmas trees that are like a pattern of blue, and I had this placemat from the Dollar Tree in my stash, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna make one out of this. But I didn't want my seam to be going around the tree the way that it is right now. So I taped it off just temporarily while I figured out how I was going to do this. And I decided that I was going to be cutting it up the back side of the tree. Because if I cut straight through all of it, I'll be able to create a single seam. I hope that makes sense. So I'll show you in a second. So I started to do that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cut the base first. I want to make sure that I have my base the way that it needs to be, and then I'll worry about cutting that seam. So I went ahead and did that. I was prepared to measure it off again if needed, but I think I did this one just really by sight, and I did okay with, I'm not sure how I lucked out that way, but I did. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm showing you the inside of it. I'm going to cut that seam that I'm talking about, and the excess pieces will fall away, and then we'll have a single straight seam going down the back of the tree once we're done. So you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second here. So we've got the excess setting aside, and now I've got my tree that I can piece together. I'm just going to overlap the edges slightly so that I can use my hot glue and have it secured. So just a little bit of hot glue there. Make sure you use your finger protectors. I did go ahead and grab mine, as you can see. And I found that if a little bit of it oozed out, I could use my fingernail to just scrape it away because of the surface of the placemat. So I am going in and sealing it some more on the inside. Again, because of the texture of that placemat, I was worried that it wouldn't hold, 100%. So I wanted it extra secure. Now this was just a scrap piece of the placemat that I had cut away that I'm using to create a base for the tree. Now this time, instead of it sitting on top of the little circle, I want the circle to be just slightly inside my tree. I don't want there to be any visible edges at the base of my tree. I want it to be nice and neat, so I want it to kind of sit just inside there. So I could just carefully trimmed off a little bit of extra areas where needed, and then you saw me apply the hot glue inside there, and I'm just trying to make sure that it's getting all kind of lined up there. Using another piece of birchwood here, and going to apply that to the base. Sorry, I'm off screen there a little bit, but so there's that. And then this time I'm going to grab a silver star out of my stash. And I was saying that these were ornaments before. They're actually on little twist ties. So I'm not sure if they're technically, no, I think they are ornaments. I think they just need hooks. That's what it is. But I keep pulling off the little piece that makes it the ornament. And I'm just using them as stars, clearly. So I grabbed a little teeny tiny bit of garland that had fallen off my garlands from before, and I'm tucking that down in there because I needed something that was going to camouflage the hole and also help to hold my star, because that hole was a little bit bigger than it needed to be. So put my star in there, just going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure it, and now this one is done too. Let me know what you think. And DIY number 5. All right, I have a little Christmas tree for this one, but it's actually an Easter tree. But I thought, you know what? I like the colors for it, but I seemed to be missing a little foot. And I'm looking in the box and it's not there. I've got two. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it'll work with the two. So try, oh, and there it was. It was like in the tree. Leave it to me to not notice that. So at any rate, I was able to get it secured, and then I started pulling all of the branches out and just got it fluffed up. These little trees always remind me of Charlie Brown. Poor little things. They're so naked, but we're going to dress it up. I pulled out a bunch of ribbon from my stash, and I was just trying to decide on which two I wanted to use for this. Ultimately, I did settle on, you can't really see it there, but there's a gingham or a buffalo check that's red, white, and black. And then the green that you can see there that also has the gold trim. So here we go with the buffalo check first. And I'm sorry that I'm a little out of screen here. This was a hard one to try to show what I was doing with the way that my camera is set up. So I apologize. I'm going to do my best to explain. But I am dressing this the same way I would a large Christmas tree. I'm starting at the top and just kind of weaving the ribbon between the branches, and then cutting it off down at the base once I know that I have a length that's sufficient for dressing up the tree. So you can kind of see it there. And I'm going to do that a couple of more times around the tree, so that there are going to be 3 ribbons of this style, and then I'm also going to switch over and use the green. So once I have the, and I'm going to alternate it. So once I have the buffalo check all situated like I do, I'm going back in with the green and I'm doing the same thing. And now once I have all of the ribbon on my tree, I'm going to create a bow for the top. And I was just wrapping the ribbon together in loops, and I did it, I think I have 6 loops on either side here. And then I also took a length to tie around the middle. As you can see, I did it the contrasting ribbon so that we could have a little bit more interest. But then I'm just going to pull this ribbon apart. Now, you don't necessarily need to use ribbon to tie it in the middle like I did. You could also notch it and use a pipe cleaner, and that would actually make the ribbon a little bit easier to manipulate and to get it like a nice round full bow at the top. I had done this in a way that was kind of thick, so I was hesitant to try to cut through it. I didn't think I was going to be able to manage with my scissors, so I chose to do it this way. Now I'm just using the ends. I'm going to tie it to the top of the tree. I just gave you a quick glimpse of what it was looking like. And now I am grabbing some greenery and some poinsettias. These are from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to add them onto my tree here. I thought at first I was just going to pop it off and use hot glue, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and use the wire in the picks and do it that way. And that was ultimately what I did. So I stuck that little flower back on and I started cutting them off. So I'm literally using the wire in the flowers and wrapping it around the wire branch. And at some points I'm also using the branch to kind of twist around it too, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. Now, if you prefer to use hot glue, you certainly can use hot glue. It might honestly be easier. I was just thinking, in case I decided I wanted to take it apart later and do something else with it, as soon as you use the hot glue, it's done. It's not gonna, well, you could always, perhaps use a heat gun to melt the glue and pull it off. It's just going to be a mess. So that was my thought process there. But I am, after all, using on these little greenery pieces some hot glue. So I don't know. You could do it however it's going to be easiest for you. But I was checking it out here. I went through and added some more just until it made my eyes happy. And once the tree looked nice and full, we were all done and ready for our little countertop. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the project. If you did, please remember to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help. Leave me a comment, say hello, let me know what your favorite one was. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.